Hey friends, it's Meryl. Welcome back to another solo episode of the Do Cool Shit podcast. Before I dive into today, I just want to say I'm super excited for the next few episodes. We have some awesome guests lined up, so keep an eye out for those in the next couple weeks. And until then, we're going to dive into today's topic. And I want to start with this reality check. And that is that the way you talk to yourself is literally, as the kids say, building your reality. Your language creates your reality. And there's different ways to look at this. The big focus here is that so many people are accidentally and unknowingly programming themselves for failure. The flip side, and what I'm hoping to shift in part of this episode, is that we also can change the narrative and have this be something where we program ourselves for success. So, this is something that I see really often with people through my years of working with human beings and just observing human beings, because humans are so interesting, especially when people are pursuing growth or self-improvement in any area. For sure, in areas of health and fitness, this comes up so often, but it really does show up in any area where people are looking to grow or improve, especially high achievers. And this is something where we've talked a lot about this in other episodes, or if you work with me, we talk about this a lot, where a lot of language is something that seems like it is you just being realistic or holding yourself accountable. Sometimes it's self-protection or self-preservation methods at play. But what people are actually doing a lot of the time when it comes to language and holding themselves back is they're running this this negativity broadcast 24/7 in their brain, and it's making it damn near impossible to become the person that they say they want to be, or the person they, want to be. So today, that was the longest intro ever. We're going to talk about what I call the naughty S's. This is something that I'm pretty sure I've created by myself. It's kind of hard to say these days that, they say nothing is original. But I'm going to trademark these right here and now. And these are four sneaky patterns that, again, I have noticed through my years of working with people that come up really often and destroy progress, confidence, and people's ability to do cool shit. They all lead to sabotage. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit more about how language creates reality. The core concept here is that your brain creates a reality based on what you repeatedly say and where you consistently focus. And this is not anything that is woo-woo. This is actually neuroscience. I talked a little bit about the red car theory in a few episodes ago. I don't actually remember which one, but your brain's reticular activating system, or RAS for short. This is something everybody has. It's like a spotlight, kind of. It is finding evidence for what you tell it to look for. And repeated language becomes that operating system. You're carving neural pathways that determine what you notice, what you believe is possible, and then that leads to what actions you take. So the words that you say, the narratives that you use, they're not just describing your experience, they're actively creating it from your point of view. Think of your brain like a search engine, like it's Google. Whatever you type in, say you type in, I suck at this, I'm so weak, I should be further along. Your brain then goes, all right, I got it. Let me find all the evidence that proves that this is true. And it absolutely will. There's that saying is whatever you're looking for, you will find. This is what this is. This is your Raz at work. Your brain will find it. That is its job. And I think you could guess what the problem is here, but i- the the layer underneath that is that there's not intentionality about what you're searching for. You're just running on this default programming, and that default is usually pretty bitchy, right? It's pretty damn harsh. So let's go into these naughty acids. Let's break down the four main ways that I tend to see people. This is not exhaustive, but I'm going to give you some examples that I tend to see people accidentally program themselves to stay stuck. And I can guarantee that you're doing at least one of them. I do these sometimes even now still. So let's get into it. Naughty S number one, shoulding. So when we use quote unquote should language, that sets this standard. It's usually a impossible standard, and it usually creates constant failure. Some examples I have heard people say is, I should be further along right now. Or I just had a conversation with a client where she said, I ate more protein today, but I should have tracked it. So, what this does is it creates a reality where nothing you do is ever good enough. You're always behind, you're always falling short, you're always failing because of this weird, invisible, non-realistic standard that you set. And there's this trap that a lot of people get caught up into where that should implies obligation without acknowledgement. It's it dismisses what you did do, and it focuses on what you didn't do. So really, like, you can never feel good about the things that you did do. Shaming. This is a really big one. What it is it's attacking your character or your worth based on actions or comparisons. Some examples of this are, I'm so weak. I'll just never be as strong or fit as her. Maybe I just don't want it bad enough. I skipped the gym yesterday. My whole day was thrown off. So, what this does, shame does not motivate, it paralyzes. It makes you feel fundamentally broken rather than focusing on changeable behaviors. So, when you make it about who you are instead of what you did, change feels impossible. You're not working on a skill, you're fighting your entire identity. Ugh. Um, Third one, shitting on yourself. So what this is it's harsh, cruel self-talk that you would never use with someone else you care about. You probably have heard about self-talk and asking, would you say that to your best friend or to your daughter? And you're like, no, I'd never say that to them, but you say it to yourself, right? So examples like, I'm so fat, I can't seem to do anything right, or I suck. Obviously, I'm not cut out for this because I can't do, insert whatever. I can't track my food. I can't get this movement correct. Yada, yada, yada. So, what this does is it activates your stress response. Like, your nervous system can't tell the difference between being attacked by you or being attacked by someone else. So, you're in this threat mode. You may think that you're motivating yourself by talking to yourself like this. And yeah, there's some people where this does work in motivation, although I'd say that there's some things to be aware of around that. But you're actually creating conditions that make change harder. Stress, cortisol, decision fatigue, avoidance, like all of these really big potential barriers get heightened when you shit on yourself. And then the last one is shrinking. So, what this is making yourself smaller. It's making your needs, your goals, your voice smaller to accommodate others or to avoid discomfort of some type, avoiding feeling certain ways. Some examples would be like you had planned to go to the gym and you changed that because someone else messaged you and was like, I need to change this. That's not good. This is going to work for me. Or, hey, do you want to go do something? And instead of even saying, well, I have plans to go to the gym, you're just like, yeah, I'm going to change that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what the other person needs or make it easier for the other person instead of doing what's supportive for me. It could look like not speaking about your goals or what you want for yourself or what you're doing or asking for help. It could be downplaying what you want because it might inconvenience someone else, or you may think that it will make them feel a certain way. And what this does is it reinforces the belief that your goals don't matter as much as anybody else's. You become not like I want to say almost invisible to yourself. You're just like, my stuff doesn't matter as much. And again, you could look at other people and be like, I would never think about that. I would feel bad if someone else said that to me, but you're okay with doing it to yourself. You think you're being selfless. You think you're avoiding conflict. You think you're not being rude or, again, maybe trying to avoid feeling certain things, but you're teaching yourself that you're not worth prioritizing. And eventually you're just going to stop trying and probably build up a whole bunch of resent in the meantime as well. So the connection with all of these things is sabotage. All four of these create avoidance. Avoidance creates exactly what you're trying to avoid. Shoulding can lead to avoiding showing up because nothing will be good enough anyway. Shaming can lead to avoiding trying because you've already decided that you're not capable. Shitting on yourself can lead to avoiding discomfort because you're already stressed and threatened. Shrinking can lead to avoiding taking up space because you've learned that your needs don't matter. And this all leads to sabotaging your own progress, then using that as evidence that those naughty S's and that narrative that you created were right all along. And it is a vicious cycle that people get stuck in. So I'm going to go into where this comes from and the real dangers associated with it. I am going to talk about some sciencey things, but I'm going to make it easy to understand. So, negativity bias is a really big thing. Humans tend to be negative. Your brain evolves to prioritize threats. Harsh self-talk feels familiar because your brain thinks it's keeping you safe from failure or rejection. So, negativity bias is, something that tends to happen in evolution because your brain just wants to keep you alive. And again, your brain is going to choose familiar all the time. There's learned patterns here. So most of us learned these narratives elsewhere. We weren't born with these narratives in our head. We may have learned them from family, from coaches that we've had in various areas of our life, from diet culture, social media, commercials, TV shows. society's impossible standards that are constantly changing. You've absorbed these voices before you had the tools to even question them. A lot of these learned patterns, learned narratives can go into areas of you being really, really little and you don't even remember it. And then there's neural pathways. So the more that you repeat these patterns, the deeper the groove gets and it becomes automatic. Your brain kind of has this default setting and it's going to go to what is automatic unless we've put some other things into place. You can think about your brain like a hiking trail. So the more that you walk the same path, the more that you do that one specific hike, the clearer it gets, the easier it becomes to follow. Your fear even sometimes like goes away or concern or whatever. And then those naughty S patterns, they are like this superhighway at this point. They're well worn, they're automatic. Your brain defaults to them without thinking. That is the familiar, that is the clear path, that is the route that your brain is going to choose because another hiking trail seems like it is dangerous. It's new, it's different. So, the dangers of continuing, staying in that familiar, in those pathways, in those patterns, there's actually a physiological impact that most people don't realize. So, psychological affects the physiological. There's a ton of stuff there. So, when you shit on yourself, your body responds as if you're under threat. Your cortisol spikes, inflammation increases, recovery suffers, decision making gets harder, and you're making it harder for your body to do what you're asking it to do. Cortisol and stress and hormones in general are like such hot topics right now. A lot of that happens because of these psychological aspects that we're talking about today. There is this avoidance spiral that is kind of this masochistic irony where these patterns create the exact outcomes you're trying to avoid. I think I said something like this in the episode where Paul was a guest, where you get exactly what you were trying to avoid. So you're afraid you're not good enough. And then you have this harsh self talk that ensures you won't show up consistently. You're worried that you'll fail, but your shrinking guarantees you're not going to take the risks needed to succeed. And then the opportunity cost is a really, really big one here. While you're stuck in these patterns, you're not building confidence in your ability to follow through, competence through your consistent practice or persistence, self-efficacy, which is the belief that you can create change or that you are able to do the things that are supportive for you, like in any instance, eh, or the life that you actually want. So every day that you spend naughty essing yourself, and I call it this too, where I think it's kind of funny because if you're like, oh, I'm just naughty essing myself, then that makes it a little bit less serious and a little bit more lighthearted and easy to examine. But every day you spend naughty essing yourself is a day you are not spending becoming the person who does cool shit. All right, you want to talk about how to stop naughty essing yourself? Let's go through some steps here that I suggest. And I will also be adding a resource in the show notes for you to download that will really, really help you in these areas as well. So, step one is creating awareness. This is a foundation. You can't change what you don't know or notice. So start paying attention to when the naughty essing shows up. What triggers it? What certain situations, people, times of day, behaviors, etc. What does it feel like in your body when they happen? When you shit on yourself or shame yourself or shrink yourself? How does that actually feel in your body? And what narrative are these trying to sell you? A really quick practice you could do is just set a daily alarm to check in with yourself. What did I just say to myself at different points of your day? What did I just say to myself? Would I say this to someone else? Step 2, catch and redirect in the moment if possible. This can be really hard, especially at first, because these patterns are fast and automatic. And again, you probably haven't even realized that you've been doing this and that it's been detrimental. But with practice here, aim to notice the thought that you're having. Aim to pause, like literally just stop and take a breath in whatever you're doing. Ask yourself, is this helping me become who I want to be? And if the answer is no, again, if you're catching this in the moment, you're probably like, "Oh, this is what I'm doing. I'm not assing myself." So choose a different response. For example, if I just said I should have done better to myself, then you can redirect, create a new narrative of I showed up. What can I learn from this? That creates openness and opportunity there and a lot more lightness there, right? You will not always catch it in the moment. I'm going to tell you this right now, and that's totally okay. Again, the more that you do this, the more that you can kind of recognize what language doesn't feel good for you, isn't actually supporting you. But for right now, and in probably in the next while, you won't always catch it in the moment. So reflection after the fact, it still helps rewire your brain. So this is something that I do highly suggest doing at the end of your days, for example, or at the end of something that you may notice this language pop up often. Do some reflection. Step 3, reframe and replace. We want to build new pathways. We want a new hiking trail. This is about consciously creating new neural pathways. You're not just stopping the old pattern, you're building those new ones. We want new pathways that become more automatic, that are actually supportive, right? So, how we can do this is identify your most common naughty S's. And that can be like, oh, I shame myself. But I would encourage you to actually write out what you typically say to yourself and then create an alternative that's honest but supportive. Show yourself compassion here and then practice it deliberately. Even if it feels awkward at first, you're going to feel so freaking weird. But you know what? Weird shit leads to cool shit, promise. Here's a couple examples in reframing. I should be further along. Reframe that into I'm building skills that last. Progress isn't linear. I'm so weak. I am getting stronger and I will get stronger every time that I show up. I suck at this. I am learning. It sucks to feel like I suck. And this is part of the process. And you can even be like, yeah, I'm not going to get any better if I quit onto that. Environmental shifts is another step. So when you shift your environment, it does make it easier to show up for yourself. Set boundaries that protect your goals. You know, that may be like in your calendar, for example. Communicate your needs clearly. Remove or reduce exposure to triggers whenever possible. That could even look like not having certain foods in your house for a period of time, or not having candy out on the countertop and instead putting it away where you can't see it. Surround yourself with people who support your growth. This is a kind of like that duh thing. However, it's really huge. Start to recognize like what people are not truly supporting my growth. And this is when you have actual conversations. You honestly will not be able to willpower your way through an environment that is designed to make you fail. So start to work on, in your day to day, what are the things that are making it harder for you to create changes and create some shifts in there. And then the last step that I'm going to offer, and these don't have to be in order, I also want to say that, is identity shifts. And this is the game changer. This is probably one of the most powerful levers that you have. I would kind of break this down into a two-part process where part one, you are exploring your current identity. What do you believe about yourself? Who do you believe you are right now? Are you an active person? Are you a fit person? Or, what does that version of you do or not do? How does that version of you talk to yourselves? Get really, really honest with yourself. Explore your current identity. A lot of people will talk about things like, well, that's just the way I am, or this is what I always do. I'm a person who, these are things to think about and write down here in what your current identity is. And then part two is going to be defining your desired identity. Who do you want to become? What does that person do? How does that person talk to themselves? What would that person do in XYZ situation? And then you're going to work on creating a bridge of sorts. Start acting as if you're already that person. You are a person too in your desired identity. This is not a fake it till you make it type of situation. I actually kind of hate that fake it till you make it. You are really embodying this. You're acting as if you are that person. That version of you probably doesn't nod yes themselves because you know that they know that it doesn't serve them. You know that it doesn't serve you now at this point. So there's some really powerful questions in here. And honestly, when you stop and you tune in with yourself, especially in situations that feel hard, maybe after you've even naughty asked yourself or you're noticing yourself repeat patterns, is what would the version of me that, I want to be, what does that person do? What do I do here that would support future me, that me that, I'm becoming? What would the version of me who does cool shit do right now? So I do want to lay out this bottom line in here. You're not broken. If this is you, if you're like, oh my gosh, this is me, you're not broken. There might be some confusion here. However, hopefully it's a little clarified where a lot of people will be like, yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why I can't make progress. I don't know why these things are so hard. And now there's a little bit more insight, along with probably any other episode of this podcast, that can support you in some more self-understanding and direction. You're just running that old programming that no longer serves you. The naughty S's, the shoulding, the shaming, the shitting on yourself, the shrinking. Say those 4 times fast, friends. They're not helping you get better. They're keeping you stuck in that cycle of avoidance and sabotage. Again, it might have helped you up into a certain point, but it's time to let those things go now that you know that they're not helping you. It's time to create new pathways so you don't stay the same, so you can actually become who you want to be, who you're capable of being. Your brain is adaptable. You can change this. New pathways can be built. Different narratives can be practiced. You can absolutely become someone who supports themselves instead of sabotages themselves. You're on your way to being someone that ends each day feeling proud, ends each day feeling successful, doing the things that you know you can do, that you know are supportive for you, that you know will lend to you making progress. It starts with awareness and then making choices and then having this just be something that you do. So I do, again, have a resource for you. It's in the show notes. It's got questions, exercises, some self assessments to help you dig into where these naughty S patterns may be showing up, what they may be costing you, how to create different narratives that actually support your growth. So, highly suggest that you go download that and then you have that to work on. There's also something else that you could just really simply start doing or do these in conjunction is this week just start to notice, where do the naughty S's show up? Write them down. Don't be a judgy little bitch to yourself. Just create awareness here. Get curious. Be like, huh, interesting. Because again, you can't change what you don't see, what you don't know what's going on. Awareness is key to creating change. So remember, cool shit happens when you stop holding back. Start treating yourself like someone worth investing in because you totally are. You are. I know it. Hopefully, you know it now. So, let me know if this was helpful for you. Again, I always just love having conversations with people. Anything they got out of these episodes, shoot me a message or an email or leave a comment here. And now, as always, time for you to go do the cool shit. I'll catch you next time.